Hey, welcome in. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some of my workplace mobbing stories and how I recognize the drama triangle in these stories. I already made a video on this not too long ago, but someone lovingly pointed out that the delivery was distracting. So for any of my other viewers who felt the same way, I wanted to remake this video for you and really get my message across to you and help you. So I worked at this workplace that was really chaotic. The culture was one of destruction, and there was a lot of narcissistic individuals there. And what you'll notice in chaotic workplaces that are falling apart, most employees will be toxic or narcissistic because, as the narcissist abuse goes on, healthy people don't stay in those environments. So what's left is narcissistic people who will be very likely to mob you. So when we think about workplace mobbing, we want to understand how consciousness works. So if one bully is a bully in a room full of healthy and kind people, the person who's going to stand out is the bully. And if one healthy person is in a room full of bullies, the healthy person is going to stand out like a motherfucker. And so this is why workplace mobbing happens. You stand out and you get a lot of attention when you're a healthy person in a room with a bunch of bullies. And one thing narcissists really compete for is attention. So it's like, oh shit, dude. But yeah, one thing narcissists really compete for is attention. What they really want is attention. So when you stand out as a healthy person and in a toxic environment, you are activating narcissists' need for revenge sometimes. And their revenge is misguided. But yeah. So, first story to demonstrate the drama triangle to you. If you don't know what the drama triangle is, I will explain it to you real quick. So basically, narcissistic people are constantly moving through three roles: victim, villain, hero. They're always the victim, and then they'll be the villain, and then they'll be the hero. And when they interact with you, when they start drama with you and conflict with you, they will be interchanging in between these roles. So they will be a villain to you, play the victim. When you accept your role in the triangle as the villain and apologize, then you became the rescuer by apologizing. And so if they villainize you and you play the victim, then they'll jump in as the rescuer. And that's how drama triangles work. Now, when we, see this in group dynamics, it can get a bit more chaotic and really interesting. So basically, the narcissist can pull as many people as they want into the drama triangle, and it creates chaos and drama. And I'm going to share with you what this looks like in my stories. So I was sitting in a booth with my 3 coworkers. I was in training, and I was telling the girl in front of me, let's call her Layla. I was telling Layla that Um, I really don't like to cheat on tests, and I really like to follow the rules. And I'd rather just follow the rules than cheat because I don't want to get caught and I don't want to get in trouble. And so I was telling them how I always do my outwork. And I worked at a restaurant, and so every time your guests leave, you'll have a lot of tasks that you have to do, like cleaning tasks, sweeping, wiping, stocking items. And so I was telling them how I always do my outwork. I always make sure I do my outwork because I care about my other employees. And I shared an insight with them about the culture that I had been observing while I was there. The managers seemed to treat us like we were criminals, the new hires. Instead of holding their staff accountable, they were treating me like a criminal, as if me being new meant that I was going to break the rules and they needed to micromanage me and make sure that I'm not going to break the rules. And I found it kind of illogical, their behavior, because I'm someone who always follows the rules. But so there was no need for all this extra shit of trying to forcefully make sure that I follow the rules. They even were overworking me to make sure that I learned things that I already knew. They weren't taking into account that I had experience and that I didn't need to be babied. And that's kind of why it felt like being treated like a criminal. and so as I'm sharing this insight with my coworkers, let's call him Todd. Todd just proudly exclaims that he never does his outwork. Not never does his outwork. He will often miss things, is what he said. He'll often skip tasks. And my way of being is kind of like, I'm going to follow the rules. If you don't want to follow the rules, as long as we're cool, I don't really care. I'm not going to snitch. I'm chill. But I'm still going to be me. And so I told him, I actually burst into this joy where I was like, wow, I love that. I was feeling appreciation for his honesty in that moment, that he just proudly told me that he doesn't do his outwork. And then the whole dynamic with the managers treating me like a criminal really made sense, because it was that misguided narcissistic behavior where they're afraid to hold their staff accountable. So instead, they're just going to micromanage the trainees. And it doesn't really make sense to do that, though. If you want your employees to succeed and you want them to feel motivated to do their work, the logical thing would be to support them. But, of course, this workplace was not supportive at all. It was traumatizing, to say the least. And I wasn't even there for that long. But I want you to know that you're not alone if you've been through this, and it is painful, and your pain is valid. And so here's where the drama triangle comes in. So I really love to analyze people, and sometimes my analysis are wrong, but just for the lessons, let's play along and say that everything that I'm thinking is right. So how do I want to structure this? One moment. So there was this moment about a week later after that conversation with them. I let it go. I'm not the type of person to snitch. And one of the lessons that I really learned at this workplace is that a lot of people are the type of person that snitch. And the reason why I didn't hold Todd accountable wasn't because, I'll clarify that it wasn't because I hate snitching. It's more that I knew that my managers were unsafe, and that to go to them with that would cause me more problems, so I just let it go. But I learned that a lot of the people there did not think the same way as me, and they were very quick to snitch. And there's a difference between snitching and holding people accountable, right? I would say that snitching can come more from drama and misinterpretations, and holding people accountable comes more from reality and cooperation and support and growth. Snitching is more like revenge, I would say is a good word for it. So in this next story, I got snitched on for something that I didn't really do. And so there was only one silverware table to roll silverware. Servers have to roll silverware. And this restaurant was always dead. So we always had a lot of free time with no tables to roll silverware. And I was very efficient. So I didn't want to wait till the end of my shift to roll silverware when I could just roll it in my free time. So it's the beginning of my shift. I have no tables. I notice that Todd is over at the silverware table. Since he's over there, I leave him be. Some time passes, and I go over to roll my silverware. And Todd comes up behind me, and he's just standing behind me, behind the silverware table, and there's like a wall behind me. And I had previously seen other servers standing there to like check their phone. So I didn't think much of it, and I tried to start a conversation with him, and he didn't really say much. And so I let that go. I didn't really care. And then for some weird reason, that same day, later, the manager comes up to me and he tells me that nobody is allowed to roll silverware until the end of their shift. And this pissed everybody off. Rightfully so, because nobody wants to stay late after our grueling, exhausting server shifts for this rule that makes no logical sense. And I asked the manager for clarity. I said, why can't we roll silverware? And he said, in a very in a very prideful way, he said, because we want you to run food and talk to your guests. And when I heard that, I was like, the reason why we roll silverware is because there's no food or guests to talk to. I didn't say that, but it didn't make any sense. And so then, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did Todd snitch on me about the silverware? This is really like coincidental. Is that a word? I'm using it. Coincidental timing for that little weird situation to happen with Todd at the silverware table, and then all of a sudden rolling silverware is banned. And so this story reflects a total culture of a lack of accountability. Total lack of accountability culture. If Todd really did snitch on me, what I would assume was going through his mind was something like this. He didn't know how to stand up for me, stand up for himself, where he might have really wanted to go home because he was day shift and I was night shift. So he might have really wanted to go home, and maybe it upset him that he couldn't finish his silverware. So instead of talking to me and saying, hey, can I finish my silverware, he went to the managers and complained to them. And the managers might have actually misinterpreted him too. There was a pattern there of them misinterpreting my words constantly. And that's kind of what happens when a culture is extremely chaotic and no one trusts each other. Everyone starts misinterpreting things. And there's no trust, and there's no support or growth or cooperation or collaboration. So anyway, so he likely went and told the managers, and they made that rule. And, you know, where I'm seeing what is happening is, sorry, this is a little bit hard for me to talk about because it's so complex. In my first video I made about this, I was kind of talking really fast, and it's so complex to explain this to you because my brain gets it. So I hope your brain is getting it too. But yeah, so we can see that there might have been a little bit of paranoia in Todd, right? This mindset that some people have of like, she might snitch on me for what I told her, so I'm gonna snitch on her first and make sure that she looks like the bad guy first and not me. And that was kind of my read on the situation, that Todd was maybe a little bit paranoid that I was gonna snitch on him for not doing his outwork, and instead of, he didn't understand that I literally didn't give a fuck. And so he decided that he was gonna make sure that all the attention was on me being bad and not him. And so basically I was scapegoated by Todd. And so that was a form of the drama triangle that Todd was in. So he cast me as the villain who might snitch on him. And then he's the victim of going to be snitched on. And then when he goes to snitch on me, he's the rescuer. He's rescuing his own problem by going to the manager. And so my manager also had a tendency for entering the drama triangle. So when the manager enters the drama triangle, Todd is the victim of me peacefully rolling my silverware. Todd is the victim. So Todd is playing the victim in the drama triangle, and now KO, it gets brought into the drama triangle and gets to be the savior, the hero, I mean, and the rescuer. Sorry, I'll keep using the same language. KO gets to come in and be the rescuer. So now, by jumping in to make this rule, he's rescuing Todd from his victim narrative. But one really big thing about drama triangles and playing the rescuer rather than being the rescuer, they play the rescuer, pretend that they're rescuing. What they actually do is create more drama, more chaos. They don't save anything. They don't help anything. They sabotage. And we see this is exactly what happened with KO. When he made that rule banning silverware, he caused conflict and distrust within his whole staff. He made work harder for his whole staff because he was so focused on playing the rescuer and playing the savior in the drama triangle. So then we can ask ourselves, why would people even act like this? Why would people even want to be like this? And it's all about the avoidance of conflict. To me, drama triangles, the reason why people create drama is because they are avoiding conflict. to avoid conflict means that you avoid taking responsibility for yourself and you avoid holding other people responsible. So we see here, Todd didn't take responsibility for his need to ask me to let him use the silverware table so he could go home. So that caused him to enter the drama triangle. He didn't take the responsibility to communicate with me about his fear of me snitching. He didn't take the responsibility to care about his coworkers and do his outwork. And KO wasn't taking the responsibility to get both sides of the story. He wasn't taking the responsibility to hold his own staff accountable, to hear his staff's words, to actually listen to his staff, rather than use his staff's complaints as a stage for his rescuer role. It's very selfish behavior. And I love my analysis of this, honestly, because as I'm talking about this, I'm realizing more and more how all of this just makes so much sense knowing these people for me. When KO first interviewed me, one of my observations was that he didn't listen to a single word I was saying. He wasn't listening. And that's that avoidance of responsibility, you know? It's the interviewer's responsibility to listen to you. And so if they're not listening to you, it's a sign that they don't take responsibility for themselves, that they don't care about their responsibilities. So it makes really a lot of sense why KO was treating me like I wouldn't follow the rules, because KO wasn't following the rules. KO wasn't doing his job. And that's how leadership works in these toxic workplaces. If the leaders aren't doing their jobs, why would you expect the staff to do their jobs? If the leaders aren't taking responsibility, how could you expect the staff to take responsibility? Now, people with integrity, like me and you, would still take responsibility even if others don't. But I can empathize and understand that if you're really burnt out and you're working in that crazy, chaotic, toxic workplace, that, you know, they might derive a kind of sense of getting their power back by rebelling against their managers. And I don't think that that is something to be shamed, you know. It makes sense to me to rebel in that way. And oftentimes it's kind of a survival mechanism, you know. That place was exhausting for me. And when you're exhausted, it makes sense, you know, to skip out on your outwork. It can actually be a form of self-care. And then the leaders who don't take responsibility, they don't see their staff as struggling and exhausted. They see their staff as people who need to be punished. And we saw that with that rule that KO made. He basically punished me for the culture's lack of communication. He punished the whole staff by banning the silverware rule. Punished them. And all the while believing that he was the rescuer, that he was doing something grand. And this individual was a piece of work, honestly. This individual, my spirit guides, when I first started working there, they told me, you need to be really careful around KO. They were like, you really need to watch out for KO. And it didn't scare me, and it didn't make me paranoid, but it woke me up to the fact that this person that I was working with truly was like narcissistic. as fuck. I've talked about him on this channel before. And he truly, I don't think I've ever seen someone who displayed narcissistic traits so openly and so blatantly like this person. And it was a product of the environment, right? The environment had so many toxic and narcissistic people that he was safe to be a narcissist, right? He felt his job wasn't on the line, so he was more open about his narcissistic tendencies. He trusted that he could be an asshole and he wouldn't get in trouble, because our general manager also was extremely narcissistic. But I hope you see how the drama triangles get pulled in. It's like one person enters the drama triangle, and then Todd pulled KO into the drama triangle, who was the rescuer. And then, anyone else who may have reacted immaturely or irresponsibly to that rule would also be entering the drama triangle. And this type of behavior, it's hurtful. When all of the rules that KO made in his savior complex hurt me. They hurt me. I'll tell you this is crazy. You might not even believe this because it's so absurd. I'll give you some context. 4 p.m. is usually dead time for most restaurants. So there's not a lot of tables at 4 p.m. for most restaurants. And that's the most common shift change. So day shift ends at 4 and night shift comes on at 4. On this particular night, there were 6 night shift servers. And I was day shift. So 4 p.m. rolls around. I haven't had a table in a long time, and KO is telling me that I can't go home and I have to wait till 5. There's like 1 table in the entire restaurant. I haven't had a table in an hour, and he's telling me that I still can't go home. Whatever. It's ridiculous. I was also only getting paid $2 an hour. So, whatever. And so 4 p.m. rolls around, and I'm getting kind of pissed because I want to go home and this is ridiculous. And so all the night shift servers start coming in. It's like 4:30, everyone's coming in. And so by 4:30, there's about 9 servers on the floor. There's like 1 table in the restaurant, and there's 9 tables on the floor. I mean, there's 9 servers working. And KO refuses to cut anyone. And so I was just at a loss. And then I found out exactly why he refused to cut anyone. It's so good. I'm sorry, it's so absurd. I don't know. You just have to laugh at it, right? So, one of the runners was on his 2-week notice. And it was his last day, actually. And KO calls us all into the kitchen. And he comes out with this like birthday dessert. And he pridefully and extravagantly hands it to the runner, and like people were clapping, and I don't even know what he said. He was like yelling something. And it was this big extravagant event of handing the person on his last day a dessert. And so what I thought was that KO kept us all on and didn't let day shift go home. There was 3 of us, 3 day shift servers that he wasn't letting go home. He didn't let day shift go home because he wanted us all to watch his extravagant generosity. And so it's a form of gaslighting by behavior. You know, KO is literally hurting people by forcing them to stay at work when they're getting paid nothing, refusing to cut people, stealing people's time, disrespecting them, and all so that he can get the grand attention and have a big audience of his generosity. And so while your eyes see that KO is narcissistic as fuck and hurting you and acting like a bad person, he does this gaslighting ritual where he's pretending to be this extravagant, amazing person in front of everyone. And if there was any traumatized survivors that weren't narcissists in that workplace, he was creating an illusion of who he was. And he forced us to stay, stole our time and our money, forced us to stay. Like, stole it by making us stay. Forced us to stay so that we could watch him be generous. And that's the harm of the savior complex, right? That's the harm of the drama triangle, and that's the harm that narcissists do, you know? And that ritual was actually very, those types of rituals, behavioral rituals to cast illusions, are very important for narcissists. They're extremely important, not just to gaslight you and manipulate you, but because narcissists manipulate themselves the most. They have to keep their illusions alive. So he has to do things that make him look like a good person so he can continue pretending that he does no wrong and not take responsibility for himself. So to sum it up, you will see drama triangles a lot in people who don't take responsibility for themselves. And when managers refuse to hold people accountable is when you will also see a lot of drama triangle-y behavior. So, knowing this, I want to hear from you, of course, always. What have you ever noticed the drama triangles in people's behavior? Did this video bring up any memories from your past? If so, can you spot the drama triangle in that memory? Where they're playing the victim, the villain, or the rescuer? Can you spot it? If you do, leave it in the comments below, and we can all learn together. But yeah. If you'd like to support my channel with an energy exchange, my donation link is down below. I also have a digital product shop where you can get a few of my written products. And thank you so much for watching and being here. There's tons of playlists. Check out my playlist tab if you want to. My content is all organized for you there. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to like.